So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Nice. Good morning. Compliments of the season to you all. Thanks for the same to you. Thank you. This morning, we are really happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to come to this media conference where we will discuss with you the central bank's exit from emergency control of Clico. And we have two distinguished people to my left who will present short summaries to you. Dr. Alvin Hilaire, the governor of the central bank, and the beautiful lady, Mrs. Claire Gomez Miller, the executive chairman of Clico. So they will make short presentations, and then we'll open the floor for any questions. But allow me to acknowledge members of the public who are joining us via our live streams on Facebook, YouTube, and our website. So we thank them for joining us as well this morning. So without any fuss, I'm going to just turn over to Governor, who, as you can see, is seated and mic'd. So they will do their presentations and their discussion pieces from the front here. So warmly welcome, Governor. Give him some positive energy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Nicole. Thanks everyone for tuning in, the media for accepting our invitation, and everyone listening to us live stream. Today we want to chat a bit about Clico, about where things are at, how we got in control of Clico, and how we exited. Now, why are we doing this? At the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, we think it is essential as a public agency that we explain what we do to the public in as clear, simple, and direct a manner as possible. So we hope that today will be useful for you. All right, so Clico, how did we get here, and so forth. I want to just chat about our history in three small parts. The first is, how did the central bank come to be in control of Clico? The second, what did we do during our period of control? And the third is, why are we exiting and what's left? All right, let's start from the beginning. In 2008, 2009, let me start from CLF. CLF is a huge conglomerate in Trinidad and Tobago. What is a conglomerate? A conglomerate involves many businesses. A big company that has a number of businesses. CLF had not only financial entities such as insurance companies, bank, and so forth, but was involved in energy, real estate, a number of different things together. So it was large, huge, and diverse. But it ran into problems. What is the nature of these problems? Underlying the situation, as some of you may recall, was the international financial crisis, where you had a collapse of a lot of companies in the US and that spread around the world and so forth. With that, you had a decline in commodity prices, and you had some things that were affecting this conglomerate come to the fore. In particular, people became very nervous and wanted to move their money out quickly. So you had that being one of the underlying things. But the company also grew very quickly, rapidly, and in a sense, out of hand. And the business model tended to be quite risky, getting into things that were exotic, moving very quickly, taking on risks that were too much, too fast. The combination of this led to a virtual collapse of the entity. Now, why is this important to us? Well, because the company was quite, as I said, large in the scale of Trinidad and Tobago and diverse, including the financial sector. What happens then is that the central bank was concerned, as everyone else, that the contagion effect, well, I guess you know about contagion now with the pandemic, had become so great that when you have a collapse of one institution in the financial sector that was large, then it could have spillover effects on the other entities. And this was a quite real possibility in the case of the CLF companies, and we're talking about Clico today. Now, this is very serious. and it threatened the entire financial system of Trinidad and Tobago because of the size of the insurance company, Clico, and also its interaction with a number of other entities, with banks, with insurance, with other insurance companies, with credit unions, trade unions, the man in the street, etc. So it was large, huge, and this created problems. Well, briefly put, what happened? Because the government at the time had a lot of what you call fiscal space, in other words, the capacity to rescue a huge institution, then a bailout occurred. I'm using the term just generally, bailout. This involved a huge amount of taxpayers' funds. We're talking about $18 billion. To put that in context, if you were to divide that among all of the adults in Trinidad and Tobago, each adult would have contributed about $16,165. So it's a lot. You could buy plenty of appliances with that, I'm sure. So we are talking about the government injecting funds to rescue a situation that seemed untenable. This rescue took the form of cash or support to policyholders and different support, but over the years it turned up to be about $18 billion. Some of it was interest and so forth, but that's the gist of it. Now, how did the central bank come into the picture? Well, the central bank, being the regulator of financial institutions, had a role. We saw that things were very difficult and had to come in. Under the legislation, we took over emergency control. Now, emergency control is supposed to be temporary, and it is supposed to be short as possible. Now, what were our priorities? Our main priorities were, and I will be coming back to that over and over again, were the health of the financial system. As I said, with such a huge conglomerate that had myriad impacts on the financial system, if you were not careful, then your entire financial system could be at risk. So the health of the financial system is one. The second major priority is the safety of the traditional policyholders. Traditional meaning the policyholders who had life insurance products that were, I would call it normal, in the sense that people who are catering for their loved ones when they depart this world, they will be comfortable having life insurance for them, or you might use it for, to back a mortgage and so forth. So we were concerned about that, and this is our mandate, the health of the financial system, as well as the traditional portfolio. So we took over emergency control. Now you have different ways of resolution happening, but this is one where a central bank or a regulatory agency takes over control. So this is since 2009. We're now in 2022. You could see the time span between that period. Okay, so what happened? What did we do? What is this about? Since then, our emergency control, and you would see it in the legislation for those of you who have the time, involved really managing the affairs of the institution. So we appointed new boards, oversaw the management of the company, oversaw some of the major transactions, and basically sought to keep a rein on what was happening. Because as I kind of mentioned before, now I've gone into part two, if I didn't mention that before, part two, which is our period of emergency control. Because as I said before, the company's activities tended to be quite risky. And this was a governance problem because things were not always as they should have been with respect to controls and checks and balances and processes and so. So we had to try to create some order out of that, manage the situation. I wanted to just spend some time to talk about the people who were involved in this activity, because it required a lot of interaction, a lot of coordination, a lot of goodwill, and a lot of effort on the part of the boards that we put into place. We had managing directors. We have Claire, who is the dynamic Claire you will hear from us. So we had, as I said, the board, the management of the company, the staff who have been continuing to work diligently over the years to keep the policyholders comfortable, to improve the governance and so forth. We have the central bank personnel from our legal department, our external relations, human resources, supervision. We have the legislators who changed the legislation to allow the insurance framework to be much more sound. So you have a whole big team effort of Trinbagonians to get us from there to now. I just wanted to mention that. So, as I said, under our control, we try to manage the affairs as best as possible and work with teams available. Governance was an important part of it.
Yeah.
Let me talk about one aspect, that a path that we had chosen, and you may see in the 2015 what you call resolution plan, and you can see it on our website and so forth. And this is pretty standard, a pretty standard option for resolution of companies, financial institutions. And one that is selling the portfolio, traditional portfolio, to another entity to make sure that the policyholders are safe. So we embarked on that path, and we had already determined a preferred bidder. But because of the legal issues involved, it took some time, so we didn't continue on that path, at least the central bank. But the company will continue its operations and determine how to move forward. I just wanted to mention that part of it. The other thing that we did is to, remember I mentioned $16,165. Well, the taxpayers, the policyholders. One of our objectives during the period was to arrange affairs in a way that the government could be repaid. The government, and by extension you, the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago. So, from this 18 billion or 16,165 per adult, over the years, the payments have been made to the taxpayers, to the government, in different forms. One, shares of companies via different assets. Shares, securities, cash, bonds, properties, and so forth. So over time, you get from 18 billion to 1.1 billion. So the debt owed to the government or the taxpayers by Clico is now down to much less. So I know some of you are saying, well, what does that mean for me? So from the 16,165, 15,225 was repaid. So Claire will tell you about the 940 that you're missing now, or the 1.1 billion. But this is a huge amount, and I just want to put it in context. In many countries, and in most countries facing a huge financial problem like this, they do not have the fiscal space to cater for a bailout of this magnitude. They may do part of it, and then they may end up having to borrow externally and pay back in foreign exchange or whatever over time, so their debt goes up. They have to pay it, and guess what? They may not get much back from the company that has been in problems. So you have to look to put all that in context. One other aspect of our control involved clarity on what we are doing and accountability. So we had to explain to the court every quarter, every 3 months, what we are doing. So every quarter we would write a report that goes to the court, the High Court, that is then passed to through the government to the parliament. So you could see every 3 months what the central bank is doing, and you could look at it. And it's a very detailed report. It gives all that I'm talking about, you would say, but it's all there. By September, we did 44 reports. So if you have the time, you could look at all 44, or you could look at the last one and work backwards, because we try to also make it easy for people to understand. So the last one kind of envelops a lot before, but the history is there, our accountability is there. So, part 2. Part 1 was how did we get in control? Part 2, what did we do? Part 3, exit. Well, as I said before, the central bank is not in the business of running insurance companies or financial institutions. We have emergency control depending on the circumstance, and that is what we did. So, at this time, we think it is opportune that the conditions are satisfied that we could exit comfortably. I'll go back to the 2 priorities I mentioned all along: the safety of the financial system and the health or the welfare of the traditional portfolio holders. Clico is still large, as they say, about 20-something% of insurance company assets. But because of the work that I had talked about before, we are comfortable that there will not be the contagion effect on the financial system. The governance is stronger, the order is there, the way of doing business has been regularized, I would call it like that. So we are not concerned that you will have a problem with the financial system now from this source. The other thing is that the government has been paid quite a lot back. The staff of Clico have been working tirelessly to make sure that the traditional portfolio holders are safe and secure. Even during the pandemic, I think they had a lot to do to keep people reassured and so forth. And the last thing I want to mention on that is that the central bank coming out of Clico does not mean that we are not involved. We have two arms, as it were. One is as the central bank as a monetary authority, and 2, the central bank as the supervisor or regulator of financial institutions. Now that second arm kicks into high gear now, because Clico as an insurance company is like other insurance companies that will be managed or regulated by the central bank, that has been regulated and will continue to be regulated by the central bank. Our team of regulators is quite strong and experienced, have learned over time, and they will be looking at things very carefully to look at the governance, to look at the structure of things, to try to, I mean, we don't want to get to micromanage because that's not our affair, but we will not be kind of just saying, well, anything goes. Let me talk about, and again, to thank our parliamentarians for passing the insurance legislation, because we had outdated insurance legislation for quite some time, and there had been many attempts to get it sorted out, but eventually it was sorted out. Everybody came together, and in 2020, new insurance legislation came about that is much stronger, that is very focused on governance, on risk, and on processes, and on making sure that there are strong safeguards. So I think that is quite important. So our supervisory team will have much more, how should I call it, much more power, as it were, or more authority, given the new insurance legislation. But of course, much more accountability, because people want to make sure that we are doing what we are supposed to do. So that is where we are now. I'll leave it to Claire if she wants to talk to us a little bit about the future. I just wanted to emphasize that I think I'm going back. It might seem that I'm repeating it a lot, but the people involved have been doing a lot of work to bring us to where we are. I'm very proud of the teams that have worked together very diligently, and I think we are in a good place. And I look forward to your questions, comments, and the media is here. We look forward to your participation. Any questions you have, we will answer what we can, and if we can't, we'll probably get back to you as early as possible. So thank you very much for your attention, and maybe if Claire, you want to add any few things?
Yes, of course.
Sorry.
Okay. To the media, to my leaders, to the officials of Central Bank, to the nation, because I know a lot of citizens outside there listening to us. I also am aware of our customers out there listening to us, our policyholders. I must say that I entered into the Clico picture only in 2017, July 2017, and it has been fun, I must say. I don't do anything if there's no fun in it.
True.
And it has been quite a ride. It continues to be quite a ride. It's like a roller coaster. But you know that you're on that roller coaster, and you know that you have to wear safety belts. And you know that there are people there making sure the equipment is in order for you to enjoy that ride. And I think that when we started, we have to go back again to that resolution plan. So my job was really and truly to make sure that I execute that resolution plan. Clico owes a debt. Clico has to repay that debt. And that was the first message that everyone within the company had to understand. We will pay our debt. We will pay the interest. Because a lot of people forget that we pay interest. So we have paid interest. We continue to pay interest. Every day it accrues, once it is that we have any outstanding debt to pay. So there was a full commitment throughout the organization. We have a debt to pay. We are thankful that the government bailed us out, and as such, we are going to be grateful. We are going to demonstrate our gratitude. And we did that consciously. It meant that not every year you would have gotten salary increases. Salaries would have stayed. The employees would have remained with annual contracts, never knowing at what point in time that they would be unemployed. So you had 150 employees of that organization on that payroll who never knew when the year is going to be that they will be unemployed. And those employees came from 2009 to 2022. And I must say, most of them are right here. That's my leaders, and the rest of them are listening right now. And I must congratulate, I must give kudos to those loyalists, the staff, the leaders who stayed that course throughout, through all the emotions, all the trauma of it all. And the policyholders, the investors within Clico, who stayed that course. A lot of policyholders remained. We have annuitants. We have pension plans. We have a lot of pensioners. You're looking at an organization with more than 100,000 customers that we serve. The governor spoke of during that COVID period. We opened for business. Although the doors were not opened, we remained in operation throughout. And we made sure we paid every single claim, and we continue to do so. So the policyholders, their interests have always been our business and will continue to be so. Our loyal staff and leaders will continue to be very much appreciated. And the board of directors, well, I always say that I have inherited. I think I have the best board in Trinidad and Tobago. They work non-stop. Even if it's 12 o'clock in the night, they get a board note to approve, they are at it. Even if it's a Sunday, they are aware of what is going on in the organization. Because unless you are running a large organization as Clico, you will not appreciate the level of complexities in that organization. And for the organization to survive, there must be continuous oversight of that organization. So we would have had two levels of oversight, one coming from the board and one coming from the oversight committee that was headed by the governor. So every week we had to report to the governor what's on our schedule, where are we, what is happening in the organization, are there any threats that we need to address. And we would have gotten full support from the board members and from the officials of Central Bank. Now, when we started in 2017, it meant that here's a resolution plan that says we must transfer that portfolio out of Clico. It meant that the organization was not stable enough to give that level of assurance that it will continue as a going concern, that it will be profitable, it will be solvent, it will be compliant, it will understand the nature of the environment in which it operates, which is the financial industry, and as such ensure that what went wrong before does not go wrong thereafter. And if it starts going wrong, we can recognize it is going wrong and address it immediately. So some of the things that we needed to put to stabilize the organization, and I always say this, I do not preside over the dead. I'm not a mortician. So if you put me in charge of the organization, I expect it to be very much alive and well. So I am not preparing for death. So it meant that everyone had to, as they say, drink the same Kool-Aid. And I think they happily drank the Kool-Aid because they're right here still with me, So it meant that putting structure within the governance of the organization was the first thing that we had to do. So we set our agendas, we focused. We are still a small board. It's amazing. It's a small board. So all the directors had to double up and be the chair of all the various committees. We have 6 board committees. And we try to have those meetings when we have one day, all of the committees would meet. So it means to see when you start in the morning, they might not be going home until 7, 8 o'clock, but all of the committee meetings are held. And when we start our board meeting, it means nothing comes into the board that did not come through the committees. So it meant that no decision is being made at the board level. If it is, it's not fully justified by management. So management had to start learning how to prepare board notes and papers, stand before the directors, present their cases before they could have gotten approval. It might have taken them a few times to get their approvals, but they were very, very proud when they did so. And today I must say we have a very strong leadership team that can take the organization through the next 5, 10, 15 years. The foundation is a solid foundation. At the point in time in 2017, when we looked at the corporate values, there were 2 things that were missing, which would have been risk intelligence and compliance, that level of corporate compliance that we really and truly needed to bring into that organization. All the other value systems that were placed in the organization were there, they remain there. And so what we had to concentrate on was just building the risk intelligence in the organization. It means to say every decision that is made, every transaction, what can go wrong? Are we doing it right? Are we doing it in an ethical manner? Are we being compliant and hitting those deadlines? And what is preventing us from doing so? So the organization has really matured during that period of time, because you can have an organization that has been from 2009 with a level of uncertainty. It meant that uncertainty grows through the organization. And this organization, you still have more than $8 billion in assets. Yes, that's a big organization. So it means to say that and I think we need to recognize too that the manpower that was driving Clico before its collapse would have been what, more than 1,000 persons, and those were brought down to 130. And then, well, of course, we have some supplemental consultants. But at the same time, you're looking at the same mammoth size organization still being managed, but with a smaller workforce, very lean. So it meant to say that the culture of the organization, the way that we do business, everything had to be very focused, and we could not afford to be making any errors in our business transactions. And as such, as I said, we had 5 years to make sure that we give Clico a good chance of survival. So when it is that we had to sit and determine, okay, are we a going concern? What is telling us that we are going concern? Because you have to prove that to your sanitary auditors. I think all of us know when the auditors are saying, are you going to survive next year or not? And we were proud to say, yes, we are going to survive. And we were faithful to the resolution plan, because that was what the central bank, what the government expected of us. It was a plan, it was a roadmap for the organization. But even if the portfolio had left, we were looking still at a $3 billion remnant Clico that we still had to prepare for. And also, to worst case scenario, if the portfolio went, it meant that we expect our staff to go with the portfolio. So we made sure that we equipped them from that perspective. We never said that the portfolio will go and you will be out of a job. We wanted to make sure that customer service remained top-notch. The brand for Clico remained. Because that was the only way that Clico could survive. Yes, because we owed it to not only the staff who remained, but also to the customers who remained. So that brand remained strong. Customer service, I believe, is, I can sit here and boast, and I'm sure my leaders will boast with me, yeah, that we do believe customer service is number one where the industry is concerned. Clico leads customer service. We pay on time. Yes. So apart from the governance, putting in the structure, dealing with risk management, dealing with the compliance, we have a very healthy compliance program. So we are very much compliant with the financial institutions legislation. We are very much compliant with the legislation of the Insurance Act. We do have some gaps. I'm not saying that we are perfect, but we know our gaps, and we know that we still have the capacity to close those gaps. It's just that sometimes you have so many pots on the fires, as we would want to say, that sometimes you have to decide which one you're taking off the fire and resting for a while before you bring it back, So at this point in time, I think we are very excited about finally getting to this point where central bank has the confidence to say, we are now letting you go. We want to see now that you can stand on your own feet. And going into, I cannot say new territories, because it means to say that it's an organization with a lot of experience in the insurance industry. At this point in time, we are closed for new business, because once a decision was made to dispose of the insurance portfolio, what that meant was we would have had to stop doing new business. So Clico has been struggling without doing new business from 2014 to 2022. It means to say, for us to survive going forward, we must start new business. So Clico will be starting new business as soon as we get our license to do so, because we have to remember that our license right now prevents us from doing new business. But we have the confidence, the capacity, yes, the willingness to get that license so that we can start doing new business. Are we going to start doing business in 2023? No, I don't think so. We might phase it out. Yes, so I don't think that you'll be seeing any new products coming from Clico, because we want to make sure that as we move into that territory, we have a solid foundation. We know exactly what is it that we are going to be doing. So we will not be doing anything willy-nilly. We still have $1 billion, as I said, and I brought the exact figures because I know oftentimes, it morphs all over the place, and that's primarily because sometimes everyone forgets that we pay interest, and I like to say that we pay interest. So what we have repaid to date, we have paid in principal $14.8 billion. Clico has paid, and 2 million, I should say 2,478,401, that was 937 in interest. So we have made a total payment of $17.3 billion. And if you want the exact figure, 17,297,000,000. Right? That's our total payments. What we owe right now is the 1,029 million. 29 million. And my chief investment officer is right here. And if it is possible, we can't, because right now we are in the sale process for the MHIL shares. That's the Methanol Holdings International company shares that we wanted to sell so that we're only selling part, not all, that we want to dispose of to clear the remaining debt. And the principal amount owing is at 1.029 billion, and the interest is 38.7 million in interest. So by the time we total that is 1,068,130,567. And I think that we are still looking forward to make that payment. When we make that payment, we will let everyone know, because we will have to be celebrating, because this will be a big achievement, that this organization would have been able to repay all its debt with interest to the government. Yes, it took us some time, but the dedication, the sacrifice made to pay a debt, I mean, that's commendable. On the other side, we are saying that we made $11 billion claim against CL Financial in liquidation, because I have been saying it and I continue to say it. Clico was not the perpetrator. Clico was the victim in all of this. So we expect that we are going to be fighting to get all our claims settled. What is it that we cannot get settled? Okay, fine. We understand. We are very realistic. It might be 50 cents on the dollar in some instance. There are some trustees that we are in court with at this point in time with the liquidator, and that's okay. We have a very strong legal team. We have a very strong leadership team, and we know we are going behind every dollar. So it means to say, when it is we are saying that, okay, we cannot get this one, that's all right. We know we have fought a good fight. We have fought a good fight. And then we said, okay, let it go. Let's go behind the next one. But $11 billion in claim that we feel, that, and we have evidence, because I don't do anything without evidence. So it means to say, when we placed before the liquidators our $11 billion claim, it meant a lot of work would have taken place to validate each and every one of those cases. Even if we get back $6 billion, even if it is we get $5 billion out of it, it will be worth the fight. And that will make a big difference for us also as we move forward. So I think I have said it all so far, and I think I will await the questions, because I can talk nonstop. So that's the risk you face when you put me in a chair to speak. And if it is to make a mistake and give me the microphone, I can sing karaoke also.
Yes, thank you, Governor. Thank you, Claire. We would like to open the floor to members of the media. You'd see the microphone located to the front. Anthony, you're looking at me. You look at that microphone. Go to the microphone, ask your questions. As you kind of gather yourselves to ask your questions, let me just acknowledge all the Clico directors who are here, and of course the Clico management reps who are here, as a member of the Oversight Committee, I'm not sorry we don't have the weekly meetings. We're not going to have the weekly meetings. But I want to attest to the passion and your commitment. Thank you. I've made friends during the time. Thank you. And to our directors here from Central Bank, thank you for taking the time to come. So I open the floor now to members of the media. And he's pretending, but he's going to the mic. Anthony, we welcome you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Anthony.
I want to say that there's a little bit of deja vu here because I think I'm one of the few people in this room this morning who was at the January 30th, 2009 news conference. So a lot of memories from that period coming back. I have many questions. I will, in the first round, just ask 3 or 4. First one to the governor. Why now? Why did the central bank decide to exit now? The Clico's 2019 annual financials indicated 3 billion surplus of assets over liabilities. Could Clico not have existed? Could the central bank not have exited Clico in 2019? And one question for Mrs. Gomez-Miller. What is the governance structure of Clico going forward? And I'm asking about the board of directors. Clico is owned 51% by the shareholders of CL Financial, 49% by government. CL Financial is controlled by the liquidators. Are the liquidators going to appoint a majority of the board of Clico going forward? How is that going to happen?
You'll take your question first.
Yeah, no, you could stay there. But this one, you have more questions. Yeah, why no? I think everything is a question of balance. As I said before, emergency control is supposed to be temporary and short. So we would have liked to live as early as possible. We had a path that was set out in the 2015 resolution that involved divestment of the portfolio. We tried to follow that. We got stymied because of the legal challenges. But as I said, always we are looking to balance the stability of the financial system and shareholders, the policy holders, so that it was a question of balance. We could have left before, but we are not looking at the profitability of the company alone. We are looking at governance structure. We're looking at capacity to move things forward. And as I said, the stability of the financial system, etc. So that's basically it. So we could have left at any time earlier, but we felt this was a more opportune time because things are more solid, you get things organized, etc. So that's basically it with respect to the timing.
Right, and the governance structure. Okay. The directors will remain, so they'll continue. The liquidators, we expect that they would at least have one director on the board. If not, they would be doing continuous oversight. I think the liquidators need to look at the fact that, as we said before, there's an $11 billion claim that we are dealing with them for Clico. So it means that there must be some level of arm's length as we move forward with the organization. The discussion that I've had with the liquidators so far is more or less along those lines, that you recognize that, yes, they may have to place someone on the board, and they will do so. We expect that to happen. The continuation of the directors, at this point in time, I would have to say, yes, they'll continue. We expect that there will be an annual general meeting, because we expect that we'll be publishing our financials as the legislation requires before the end of March 2023. So soon after, we'll be calling that annual general meeting, And I think at that point in time, the shareholders would be making their decision. But at this point in time, as far as we understand and we know it, there will be stability within the governance structure.
I want to follow up with, you spoke about the litigation stopping the sale of the portfolios. What is the status of both the litigation and the sale of the portfolios?
Well, the portfolio has not been sold. We had identified a preferred bidder. We are exiting now. I think the company will decide what it wants to do with the portfolio and continue the process as before. Does that answer your question, or do you add the state of the litigation? Well, there was a claim by an aggrieved party, and I think we await the next steps in the legal process.
The central bank, quote unquote, lost in the Privy Council. Is the central bank going to pursue is it going to defend the substantive matter, which called into question the central bank's decision to offer the portfolio to Sagicor?
Well, so go ahead, please.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, we are defendants, so we will reply, and we were confident in how we approach things. So if we are called upon to defend, we will defend, yes. But we are waiting next steps.
Can you speak to the issue of the sale of the portfolio?
All right. So 2 things here. So as we move forward, the portfolio cannot remain in suspension. And you and I know the justice system in this country. The substantive matter is now going to start. So you're talking about the next 5-10 years before a decision might be made in the court. If it happens before that time, well, I'll be very much surprised. So Clico cannot continue to not do new business. So we must understand this. So it means to say a business decision will have to be made by the board, supported by the shareholders, as to what we are going to do with the insurance portfolio. The matter will have to be addressed between Sagicor and Clico, because there is a live contract right now. There's a sale purchase agreement that we did sign in 2019 that has been kept alive. So any decision on that will be dealt with between the 2 parties. Now, I don't want, when the financial statements come out and it says that we are no longer setting aside the portfolio as an asset for sale, because all of us know those financial reporting standards that we must comply with. And at this point in time, both our appointed actuary, our appointed auditors are saying that we cannot continue reporting this portfolio as a set aside for sale. So you may find the financial statements may set aside the asset, I should say remove the asset from being set aside, yes, but until the decision is made between Sagicor and us pertaining that live contract, we will not be able to say anything on that portfolio.
Okay,
No, go ahead. No,
I
no,
relinquish for now.
No, you go ahead. Please. This is for you.
His lips are burning with another question. Yes, let's hear the next question.
This conference is for you. Come on.
Mention was made of the sale of the MHIL shares.
Yes.
You also said not all of the shares are being sold. How many shares are being sold?
Okay. We have 36.63% identified for sale.
So that leaves Clico with just under 20%?
19.9%. That's the maximum that we can retain. Otherwise, we would have retained the entire block and look for some other assets to dispose.
Right. And I'm going to be bold enough to ask, what was the valuation placed on the MHIL block of shares?
At this point in time, I cannot say. We are in a commercial transaction as we started the sale. However, if you wait for March, when the financial statements are published, you will get more of that information, because we have to publish the value. And all the unobservable factors will be there.
In the 2021 annual accounts, the MHIL block of shares and the Clico World Bank shares, those accounts were qualified because of the lack of valuations. Right. So you said that this MHIL block of shares has been valued.
Yeah.
What about the CL World Bank block?
No, because we still have to wait until we get title to that. And remember, that CL World brand is one of the claims that we are making against CL Financial in liquidation. As you may recall, a lot of those would have been trust deeds, where it is that the title remained in CLF, and Clico has not been to date able to get the title. So as such, the matter is before the liquidation court, and as soon as that is settled, then we will start evaluation.
Right. The Prime Minister of Antigua on 2 occasions has gone public with the fact that Clico British American, the government promised that a sum of money would be paid to policyholders in the Eastern Caribbean. Does that quote-unquote debt fall to Clico and British American at this point?
No. Everything that was done for British American remained with the Trinidadian policyholders, because BAT was Trinidad led. You had the BICO, which is the British American company that is really and truly trying to get the settlement for the same BICO companies up the islands, and that is what they are seeking. But British American Trinidad was always ring fenced, and all of their policyholders have been addressed. So at this point, BAT does not owe any of the policyholders. The only person that BAT owns, and I should say person, is really the government of Trinidad and Tobago, because they are the creditors. So
perhaps I could just jump in for something to clarify for people. Yes, I had talked about Clico. There is another company called British American Trinidad Limited, BAT, that we also took emergency control over. So we will be exiting that imminently in the next couple of weeks. We're just tidying up some administrative finalities. So today we will focus on Clico, and we'll be exiting that, and by that time, I guess you'll have more questions on that particular company. Just wanted to clarify that, but today we focus on Clico, and we will focus on that in the next couple of weeks.
I promise I'm going to relinquish.
No.
Yeah, but it's just one statement here that Clico has no investment in British American Insurance. CL Financial had the majority of shares of BICO, and BICO owned British American Trinidad. So that's where you're getting that relationship. I am the executive chairman of British American, but it's not Clico's investment.
Right. Before I relinquish the microphone, I want to ask about the $11 billion claim. Do you have a sense of what the total claims on CL Financial are?
All I heard is that we are the biggest claimants. And I feel that we are the most aggressive.
Can you give some details around when that claim was put in, and if it has been accepted by the liquidators?
Right. So we would have put in that claim in 2018, and we have gotten the MHIL, the 7% MHIL that was settled. We had some CL Marine debt in there. We got that settled. There were 2 matters that we agreed to remove, and those are small matters, and that's primarily because we put them in just in case the other organization had not made a claim and or their claim had been thrown out, to make sure that that claim was kept alive within CL Financial in liquidation. So the bulk of it right now is really and truly still long about 10 billion to be settled.
Okay. I'll be back.
No. You're there already.
There is a $984 million claim that Angostura has on Clico.
Right.
What's become of that?
Right. So that is one that we just agreed with the liquidator that we are not going to include in our claim, because we were satisfied that Angostura has made that claim and it has been accepted by the liquidator.
So that's not part of the 11 billion, is what you're saying?
That would have been part of the 11 billion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it, Tony?
For now.
I don't know. Tony's not shy, you know.
He's going to regroup.
There's a question from the newsday journalist here, so I'm going to just read the question. Okay. Has Lawrence Dupre made any claim for ownership or shareholding on the company?
And that's of Clico?
Yes. You mean Clico, right?
Yes, Lawrence Dupre. Okay, so Lawrence Dupre would have had shares in CL Financial, and the CL Financial owned Clico. Now, there's a difference between the founder of CL Financial, which is Lawrence Dupre, and the founder of Clico, which was Cyril Dupre. Right. So Clico was in existence long before CL Financial. Clico was a successful insurance company, and then after the death of Cyril Dupre was when his nephew Lawrence Dupre determined that the best thing for I should say for the CL Financial shareholders would be to create the CL Financial organization as a holding company for Clico. And that is how CL Financial started growing. It continued on using the foundation of Clico as the image of CL Financial. However, it's a separate entity. Yes, a lot of the money that came to allow CL Financial to expand would have come from Clico. Because remember, Clico would have been very, very liquid. For Clico to pay this amount of money, even at its most destitute time, I mean, it meant that Clico really and truly had a lot of assets and a lot of liquidity. So what has been happening to Clico? We have been trying to retain the brand that was created by the founder, Cyril Dupre. And I believe that was a very strong foundation, and it is sufficient for us to continue building on. So Lawrence Dupre's investment in CL Financial, remember CL Financial is now in liquidation. And I have never experienced when a company has gone into liquidation that it is ever revived. It's not like going into receivership. When it is in liquidation, it is liquidated. So I don't expect that CL Financial, after the liquidation, will continue to exist. I do expect that Clico will exist. The success story that both the government and the central bank and Clico have right now is the ability for Clico to continue. I am not seeing CL Financial continue. When the claims are settled, even for Clico, remember the government still has claim. The government has its claim for the rest of the bailout that was given to British American in Trinidad and what was given to Clico Investment Bank. Against Clico Investment Bank was CL Financial. It was not Clico's. So it carried the name Clico, but it was really a subsidiary of CL Financial.
I'm looking for a headline. I'll be very honest.
The headline can be the lady in red.
Yes,
Then that would be good.
She works hard for the money.
So, are you referring to the rebirth of Clico? Because you said there's a plan to sell, to start back
New
selling new
Yep.
business sometime in the future, maybe
Yes.
the end of next year. Could you put a time frame around that?
Well, we are going into our strategic planning retreat, so I think it's only after that we'll get a sense of, how we'll be conducting new business. But I cannot say the rebirth of Clico. Clico has been very resilient. I think that Clico just continues being what it was. Because as I said before, for Clico to continue and survive for the 13 years, there was a high level of resilience in that organization.
How strong do you think the Clico brand is?
I think it is still strong. I think it is still very strong. I think a lot of people, because they keep on using Clico to sell CL Financial, or if there's an issue with CL Financial, then Clico sells news. So that's why you guys put the building, you put the Clico, you put everything in front. But it's not Clico. Sometimes it has nothing whatsoever to do with Clico. But yet we will see Clico, because Clico sells news. So I don't know what you'll be selling come next year when it is Clico.
Clico,
is on the rampage.
if it is the intention of Clico to resume the sale of insurance
The business,
policies, presumably annuities and other insurance type products, why do you need to sell the traditional portfolio?
Remember, it was on that resolution plan. And that resolution plan meant that at that point in time in 2014, organization was insolvent, it was not profitable, the level of governance structure was not in place, it was not a risk intelligent organization, etc. It could not convince anyone that it had the strength to get out of that hole. But as we said before, for the past 5 years, we have built that team. So we have a very solid foundation right now.
But clearly that was then, we're not in 2014, we're in 2022.
22 right now, yes.
Yeah.
So we're in 2022. And we were very early in the publication of our financial statements. Was this year? Yes.
So again, the question is, why do you need to dispose of the traditional portfolio?
We don't need to do it anymore. But as I said before, there is a legal contract that has to be dealt with between the two parties. A business decision has to be made. Not a legal decision, business. And business means to say that we cannot afford not to do new business. We can't. We have been running off the portfolio since 2014. We gave it our all. The mandate was to dispose of the insurance portfolio, and we did comply with that. Unfortunately, it did not go through. Fortunately, we can carry it. So we do have an option now. In 2014, that would have been the best decision. In 2022, we're in a different position. That decision can now be reconsidered with a new decision. Times have changed. Situations have changed.
If Clico were to resume business, how strong would its balance sheet be? How profitable would it be given the 2021 numbers?
Well, one good thing, we don't have 4.75% interest on any debt to the government. So that will help us enormously. We would have paid off that debt, and we would start concentrating now on, strengthen what we already have, and then building on top of that. Our investment portfolio, well, right now, as you know, prices are very fickle. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You just have to stay the course. We have started looking at our investment portfolio because we needed to have more longevity in some of the investments. So we have been taking advantage of that. Our fundamental principle in investing in the recent years was really and truly making sure that whatever we invest in is more than that 4.75%, because it didn't make sense investing in anything that was bringing in a return under that. So making sure that we manage that portfolio of investments is good. Wherever it is that we have investments in equity, we want to make sure that once it's bringing good returns to us, that we take advantage of that 19.9% ability to invest. We will not breach the legislation, so we will not invest 20%. If we have, and we do have some assets right now that's above the 20%, we are going to divest those.
What assets are those?
Yes, like some as quoted and unquoted shares, but we will not make this specific statement. But we do have some assets, even including CL Wilbrand. So CL Wilbrand is the one that you and I think everyone knows of. That one, once we get title to it, we will seek to divest or swap. But we will be looking for investments that give us, a healthy return. That's important.
You seem to be not in any doubt that Clico will get title to the CL Wilbrand shares.
Well, we have good validated claims. Now, I know that until that fat lady sings, that decision is there. But it is one that I think that we can safely fight for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adjourning again.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Anthony. Any other questions from our media colleagues? I think we can call it. Yeah, so just a couple things. If questions come after, as usual, you can email us at info@central-bank.org.tt, and we will try our best to respond to you. That's one. Two, refreshments. You're here, and I'd like to invite you to go through the double doors where you can refresh yourselves. And then I just want to wish you all the best for the season and beyond. God's richest blessings, and continue to be safe. I know that we are kind of outside now, but just be safe. Best wishes to you all. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
Thank you.